Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and if you follow my channel, you know that I love coral. But I don't pay a lot for my coral. If you'll notice my tank, I don't have tons of really expensive high-end pieces in here. I'm a bread and butter guy, not just because I'm cheap, which I am, but also because I love just ordinary, regular coral. When I look at my tank, I don't look at it real close. I sit back on the couch and take it all in. So in this video, we're gonna talk about what I paid for a lot of this coral and what it's worth today, because prices have gone way up since Indonesia and Fiji shut down. So to begin with, let's start with some of my favorite coral, You Philia. So this piece right here, it's kind of a bicolor hammer. I got it from Orlando Salazar. It was free, he just gave it to me because he's awesome. And he's been growing it for many years, and he got his original piece from Jake Adams, so it's just been kind of traded hobbyist to hobbyist for many years in Colorado. This piece here, this big green wall hammer, I got from the Fish Crew 4 or 5 years ago. It was like 50 bucks 4 or 5 years ago. A piece like that is probably closer to about 150 retail these days. So prices have really gone up. These guys here all kind of started off as single heads, and you know, I probably paid 10, 15 bucks a piece on those. And you can still, if you really work hard, find hobbyists willing to give you those kind of deals. But in reality, that's a pretty low price. This big colony on the side is all stuff that, again, grew out from single heads over many years. Same with this frog spawn in the middle. All of this frog spawn down here is, again, just little single heads that I've grown out for many years. They were all kind of in the $15 to $30 range originally, and of course all of these prices have doubled and tripled over the years. But as you might have noticed, I've been walking around the gold stuff because these are the prices that have gone insane. So I bought this piece 2 years ago at Reef Stock. It was a single head and I bought it for 30 bucks. Now it's 6 heads, and really it'd be hard to touch a head of this for under 200 bucks retail these days. They've gotten stupidly expensive, and even more expensive is the gold frog spawn next to it. This was basically a gift from Aquamatic because those guys are amazing, and it's 3 heads of gold frog spawn. This stuff I can't even find online to tell you what it would retail for. Stupid rare coral. Continuing with You Philia, these 3 pieces here are the long-term colonies in the tank. This piece started off, frog spawn started off as a single head, and look at it now. It's been fragged. I've got other pieces on the other side of the tank. This one above it, I bought many years ago, like 6 years ago, paid way too much for it. It was 2 heads. I paid like 50 bucks for it, which sounds fine now, but at the time it was way too much money. But I don't regret it because it's been through so many tank crashes and problems, and it's just always done amazing. This strain has proven to be incredibly hardy for me. These other hammers on the right, these are the thin branch Aussie hammers, and these are some of the more inexpensive hammers that you can buy these days. You can see they're kind of pulled in because they're under higher water flow, and You Philia just don't really like the water flow, but they're doing okay right there. This devil hand right here is one that I have recently added. It's right where my big gold hammer used to be, and I've pulled the gold hammer out because it brown jellied on me. I took it to work, cut it up. Hopefully it will live. I've got 1 little piece left, so fingers crossed on that guy. But this devil hand is really cool. It's just the perfect little devil's hand with white polyps. I love that guy. And it was very cheap for me to buy because I got it wholesale, and retail, you can get these guys kind of 75 to 100 bucks. This kind of brownish Sinarina is one that I got from Aquamatic. It had some problems. It ended up kind of dying off on one of the corners of it. So I put it in one of the scratch and dent tanks at a stupid low price. Ridiculously low. It sat there for like a month. Nobody bought it. So I took it home. It's fully healed up. It looks great, and it's almost a free coral for me. Next to it's kind of this ugly devil's hand. It's grown huge over the years, but it doesn't really get the light and flow that it needs to really be the coral that it should be. So it's all floppy and ugly, but I can't really get it off the rock because it's attached to a main piece of rock that holds my entire rock work up. And I'm afraid if I pull too hard on it trying to rip it off of there or cut it off of there, I'll end up bringing half the reef down, which just isn't worth it. So it's been here basically since the 210's been set up and probably will be here until it's shut down. Now on to my big rock of these teal green mushrooms, and these should be amazing. But you can see they got flatworms all over them, and I'm not willing to run flatworm exit in this tank, and I can't find a predator to eat them all, so we're slowly dealing with that. But these blue-green mushrooms came in as a hitchhiker, so they are free. Unfortunately, these are a coral I wish I didn't have. They grow so fast, they're a plague in my tank. You'll see them in other places, and they are incredibly destructive. Like if a You Philia falls on this pile, it is dead. It kills it fast, it's brutal. This stuff is nasty, which is too bad because it's really a pretty coral. Now on to my big fox coral. This is one of my favorite corals in the tank. This thing is huge. It's about 7-8 inches across, fully open. These are pretty expensive corals to buy. They're hard to get, and I paid like 50 bucks, something like that, from Poseidon's when they were going out of business. So the reason I was able to afford a coral like that, unfortunately, it was because Poseidon's was going out of business. But love this coral, highly recommend them. Very hardy, beautiful corals. If you can get one, buy it. Next to it's my green Sinularia. This has the green polyps, which to me makes all the difference because the stalks have turned more that pink color from when I got it, but because it has those green polyps, it holds the color I want. I got this from Aquametic. It was pretty inexpensive, and you can still get this stuff at a reasonably price. A good sized colony like this you can still find for under 100 bucks retail. Really nice coral, really easy to keep, inexpensive. Recommend these to just about anybody. Let's move on to this really bright green Aussie sarcophagan devil's hand. To be honest, I'm not sure if it's a devil's hand or a toadstool or something in between. It really looks a lot like both. But they come in as devil's hands. These guys are super bright, and they're gonna be a little more on the expensive side because they're Australian, but the color's so nice, they are well worth the money. Something like this retail would probably be around $100 to $150. So not a cheap coral, but a really nice piece. All right, now let's talk about this huge bubble coral. I bought this 3 or 4 years ago for $79 from Animal Attraction in Greeley, and now it is massive. I mean, it measures about a foot across, fully open, and right now it's not fully open. This thing will open up significantly bigger than this. Now this piece is an Indo bubble. It's huge, it's beautiful, but they are no longer importing this piece. So a piece like this that retailed for $79 3, 4, 5 years ago is now probably more like a $250 to $350 coral, just because it's unobtainable. And I have seen these up for sale in that $250 range retail, and I've seen them sell for that kind of money. And you know what? They are well worth it. My big green toadstool leather is another piece that I got from Animal Attractions many years ago. It was probably 6 inches across when I bought it. Now it's gonna be, I can't even measure it. It's so big, it's folding in on itself because there's not enough space for this thing to grow out. It's crazy, but this is a super easy coral. You can still pick toadstools up for a very reasonable price, probably not for 40 bucks like I bought this one, but you can still probably pick one up for 80 bucks that's really nice and have a really awesome coral that's gonna be easy to take care of and will eventually grow huge if that's what you're looking for. If it's not, these are very fraggable. On my list of corals I wish I didn't have in this tank, these green Pallies are on it. They look pretty cool growing up the back wall, so I allow it. But the reality is these things are a plague. They'll grow anywhere and they'll smother other corals. Next up is this photosynthetic gorgonian. I bought it 4 or 5 years ago from Petco. It was like 15 bucks. Honestly, I don't even know how a coral like this ships for 15 bucks. But yeah, these are reasonably priced corals that I think are cool. It may come as a shock to a lot of you, but this stony section of coral is also one of my least expensive sections of coral. This big piece of red monte I got from Animal Attraction many years ago as a large colony came right out of their main display tank, and I paid 75 bucks for a big colony of it. Really, over the years, it hasn't grown out, it's just grown up. It's about twice as high as it was when I put it in the tank, but that's just because there's no real room for it to grow out. But this is a really cool coral that, for the size I got it, was cheap. The encrusting monte behind it that just kind of fills that back wall, that started off as a $10 frag. Montes grow fast from frags and they're hardy. Next to that is the green spungoda. This stuff has really grown up and it's out of room to grow out. It's just getting crazy. But again, this stuff started off as a $40 like 3-inch colony. And really, this stuff grows fast enough you can still find them for that kind of price. Below all that is my green pavana. It's barely hanging on. It's just getting overgrown by the other coral. I probably need to pull it out at this point, or at least some of it out, just so I maintain this lineage, because it's a really healthy, beautiful coral. Below that is the Atlantis pink tip, so it's green with pink polyps. I got this as a 6-inch colony or so from Alpine Koi and Reef in Fort Collins. I paid like 50 bucks for it, but it's done really well in my tank. The only problem is, again, it's getting smothered by everything else around it, but probably my favorite monte in the tank. Next to it is my green bird's nest. This I got as a little tiny frag from Animal Attractions in Greeley, Colorado. Paid like 20 bucks for the frag, and I have grown and killed so much of this coral over the years. It is crazy. This is my canary in the coal mine. It grows really fast, but it's also really sensitive. So when this coral starts to go, I know I've got major issues in the tank that need handled. Good thing is usually I don't lose all of it. I'll have little frags so I can bring it back. But I have killed massive colonies of this coral 2, 3, 4 times. I lost count. It gets a little crazy. Next up is my purple monte. It started off as a little $15 frag way down here and has since grown up clear up here. If there's anything wrong with this coral, it is that it grows too fast and it's too aggressive with its neighbors. It will outgrow just about any other monte I put it with. So it's a really cool coral. It started off as a little frag, but it is one that's kind of hard to manage. Next is one of my favorites. It's this orange plating monte. It does great. It grows fast. If there's any problem with it, it's just that it grows so fast. And you'll notice there's not that much in my tank anymore, and that's because most of it's downstairs in the frag tank, and I literally have huge colonies with nothing to do with it. Now let's talk about this spider sponge. This is one I got from Aquamedic. A piece this size would probably retail you in the $100 to $150 range. Not an easy sponge to keep, but a really cool, and I'm giving it a shot. This guy needs tons of water flow. It needs fed coral foods. Benepets has been doing really well keeping these guys alive right now. Polyps aren't out on this one right now. It seems to do more once you put the feeding out. And really, this guy needs lots and lots of flow on it, and I'm really thinking about adding another power head just to blast this one sponge. This big moon brain, I'm guessing, is an Indo piece. I paid about $50 for it from Animal Attraction. Bought it on my birthday like 4 or 5 years ago. It was in the old 90 gallon. It's done really well. You can kind of see the growth on it just because of where I've had it sitting over the years. It started off on the bottom and it's grown up and not out. And when it grew up, it kind of died off. So it's not the prettiest at this point. I should probably cut the bottom of it off, but it does really well. And it was a very reasonably priced coral. Unfortunately, a coral like this is probably closer to $100 or $150 these days, but that's because Indonesia is now shut down. Now let's talk about this purple worm brain. This is one that I paid like $89 for 5 or 6 years ago, and one this size would really be hard to get now that Indo is shut down. Something Aussie would be probably twice that much at least. And when I bought it, it died off. I fragged a big chunk of it off here, and you can see like basically all of this was dead and half of this was dead. And over the last 5 years or so, it's grown all of that back. So this is a big success story for me because it is a coral that I always wanted. It was one of those original pieces I had to have, and it's finally getting close to where I originally wanted it all those years ago. As far as Fabias go, I got this Christmas Fabia. It was a damaged piece. I got it from Aquamedic. I brought it home because it was damaged. It's doing really well. A piece like that you can easily get today for less than $100. These two pieces here are hitchhikers, so they came in on another coral, so I cut them off and took them home. Really, you don't see these imported at all. This little Fabia next to it was killed by the 3 or 4 around it, so yeah, that was a waste. And then the big neon green candy cane or kryptonite candy cane I got from Vince Duffy, who used to own Great White Aquatics in Fort Collins, Colorado. I traded him coral for it, so I don't even know what I paid for it. But basically, each one of these heads can retail for, you know, 10 to 20 bucks a piece. So fragged up, that's a fairly valuable piece. And it's getting kind of hard to import this stuff from the wild. So on the bright side, this is a great aquaculture piece. And I saved the best for last, and that's my big Squamosa Clem. When I bought him, he was maybe an inch across, maybe an inch. Now he's gonna be well over a foot from the end of the mantle to the end of the mantle. Thing is huge, it's beautiful, and honestly, I don't see these up for sale, so I have no idea what it would cost to buy one this size. To me, it's not for sale. It's one of my favorite pieces in the tank. But if you want one like this, start with a little guy, wait 6 years, and they get massive. So I hope you guys like this video. I didn't go over all my coral. I've got a ton downstairs in the frag tanks, and I've got more in the 24-gallon nano. So I've got tons of coral, and at this point, adding up what I've really spent is beyond what I really want to do. Plus, I'd probably cry. But I think it's good to see that you can have an amazing tank full of bread and butter, just really nice, colorful coral that doesn't have to break the bank. And really, unless you look at your tank right up close, bread and butter is some of the coolest and best stuff out there. So thanks for watching this episode of Mile High Reefers. If you're on the Flat Earth Society, hit the thumbs down button. Everybody else, thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.